Thank you very much. Thank you very much coming our event and help us to raise the voice of the Syrian women and children in the United Nations. We have many guests and limited time. Therefore, I will not take too much time. Just I want to thank all of you, and I want to take the opportunity to say the thank you very much again for our speakers. On behalf of my organization, İHA, we hope it will be one of the good events to help the Syrian women and the children. They have prisoners in Syria. As all you know, this long conflict is going on. We are always talking about the number of the deaths. 500,000 people have been killed. We are talking about the disasters, but very few of us know that what is the situation of the women in Syria, especially in the prisons. Today, we like to raise the situation of the position of the Syrian women, and what can we do? And we are putting some good statements about what can we do. And first, I have two reminding. One, we will circulate all the recordings and videos, photos. If any of you need it, it is recording by some organization. We can share with all of you. I think it is the regulation of the secretary. Please, if any of you need it, we will facilitate it, inshallah. The second, we have 5 panelists. We will talk about Syrian women and children. I will give floor to them. At the end, we will have some time for question and answer and the comments. Thank you very much. First, I want to give the floor for Gareth from the UK. Thank you very much. Floor is yours.
I speak as a lawyer in England who, with colleagues, has on occasion represented the families of British men and women who have been tortured in Syrian jails. And even though those individuals had the status of being a citizen of another country, I am aware of how entrenched the practice was under the Assad regime of torture, and how even in the face of protest from another country, it was extremely difficult to get any accountability for what had been done, even in one case, in the face of the death of the person, a doctor, in prison. And Canada, the Canadian government, paid one of its citizens, Maha Ara, more than $1 million in compensation because the Canadian government, had not prevented his rendition to Syria where he was tortured. What this means is, for a very long time, the world has had every opportunity to be aware of what can happen, what has happened long before the recent 8-year conflict in Syria, in the hands of that regime. Now we have circumstances in which the regime has acquired a degree of confidence, and a degree of confidence because everything that is available to the international community to prosecute, to insist upon accountability for crimes against humanity being perpetrated by the regime, appear not to be being sustained. But yet, for the past decades, since shortly after the end of World War II, this body, the United Nations, brought into being the most magnificent statements, treaties, declarations, conventions on human rights. the flaw in the implementation is that it is the United Nations, the recognition of nation states as autonomous entities who have the responsibility themselves for implementing human rights for their citizens. And it is states who have taken upon themselves to decide who is human and what are to be the rights. And so in Syria now, in the report that is put out by IHH, that complements reports put out by the United Nations itself, reports put out by Amnesty and Human Rights Watch, there are and have been thousands of women and children in prisons in Syria being tortured, executed, disappear without trace. And now death certificates are being issued with the confidence of a regime which believes perhaps that the conflict is coming to an end and it has survived intact, that believes it has the immunity and the impunity to inform families whose relatives disappeared years before that they died and ask them to sign a certificate to acknowledge it was from a natural cause. That raises the fear that this, in fact, is not the end of a crisis, but perhaps the beginning of a further crisis. And that is, if women have been killed, tortured, hanged in Syrian prisons, and are being now, there is more to come. And yet the world has all of its provisions that are embodied in the law that was generated by this organization, the United Nations, has all of that at its disposal, but has failed comprehensively to bring about any recognition by the regime that it is answerable to the world at large. There is so much that could be being pressed for. There is so much. The working group on arbitrary detention can respond to individual petitions. Committee on Torture has a duty to press to go in and inspect the prisons. International Red Cross, the same. There is committee after committee sitting in this building that has the ability to press and press. There are nations that have the ability to press Syria to say, you may have escaped for the moment, but you are not going to escape forever if the international community combines and utilizes what it has. What was enacted at the end of World War II, that countries would police each other and would never allow atrocities to happen again, such as are happening in Syrian prisons. And it is right to focus on the position of women and children, because it is finite, it is answerable, it can be dealt with and it can be solved. An insistence that they be released, an insistence that they be restored to some sort of normal life if they can be. This is something that is solvable. It is not war. It is not involving necessary international decision-making and conflict solving. This is a demand that could be made on the basis of law that exists, complex law with well-equipped bodies to be pressed to utilize it. So we are here to articulate the rightness of what exists, the rightness of what is meant to be in law, that the Syrian regime one day will have to account for, one day may face the International Criminal Court, not just the leaders of the regime, but those in the prisons who have carried out the atrocities and are still carrying them out. One day, perhaps, they will be answerable. But in the meantime, they should know that the sooner releases can take place, the fewer deaths, the fewer atrocities, the fewer casualties, then the time has begun for the rule of law to be established as it was always intended to be by this international body and by our collectivity in committing ourselves to never again let what is happening now happen again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gret. Now I want to give the floor for Sister Rahaf before to watch the video. Majid, please, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. First, I am a Syrian academic coming from Lancaster University, and I would like to thank IIH for their efforts to raise awareness about the sufferings of more than 7,000 women in Assad regime, in Assad prisons. Of course, there is no need to emphasize that what started as a mass peaceful demonstration across Syrian cities asking for democratic change was violently cracked down by the regime. It was in that very moment of March 2011, where both men and women, for the first time in many decades, that notions of freedom, democracy, dignity, and representation were explicitly aspired for. The Arab uprising was not only about a question of democratic change on the political level, but also an inspiring moment for Syrian women to ask for their personal and political freedoms. This brings us to the questions of how was the Ba'ath regime dealing or treating Syrian women before the 2011 uprising. It's well known that the Ba'ath regime has always represented itself as a seemingly secular regime that aims to promote women's rights and equality. However, in practice, this regime has imposed a national ideology that is masculine and gender biased. The Ba'ath ideology is based on gratifying sacrificial heroism and militarism as the basis of what defines notions of citizenship, national membership, and belonging. Therefore, there is a propagated cult of fighting and killing as means to support the regime's survival. Having this militaristic and masculine ethos as the defining characteristic of what makes a citizen, the regime has legitimized use of violence against women even before 2011. This lack of recognition of women in Syria as equals to men is manifested or can be manifested in many articles of the penal law and nationality law. Some of these articles legitimize and normalize the use of violence against women. Others disregard women's right to give her citizenship to her children. Of course, after 2011, it was a national movement with no clear or explicit gender-specific agenda, but rather an aspiration for transitioning to democracy for both men and women. Now, the pressing question is that after 2011, this militaristic and authoritarian regime has used women as a pressure card to suppress any social mobilization or political activism. But it's also important to understand that this regime is using women to upgrade its authoritarianism and re-legitimizes its authority through using women. This is through tokenizing women and bringing them to the fore as part of the regime's claim to gender equality. This gives you a clear idea that women are used and mobilized by the regime whether for rehabilitation, legitimacy purposes, or to suppress Syrian civil movement. In light of such ideological basis of this regime and with the existential threat this regime faced in the wake of mass protests in 2011, severe repressive measures were used to ensure its survival. These violence measures created the worst humanitarian crisis in history. Therefore, this 8 years of chronic war has killed more than 450,000 civilians and more than 6 million displaced in the country, another 5 million migrating outside the country. Women and children constitute the majority of people who lost their lives. Women and children are the most affected, with more than 13,500 women that have been imprisoned in Syria so far. And more than 7,000 women are still being tortured even while I'm speaking, raped and subjected to various inhuman torture. The Syrian regime has used rape as a tool of coercion and intimidation. Now, in order to break the cycles of violence and impunity that have destabilized the Syrian societies in the last 4 decades, and particularly the last 8 years, there is a need to support a Syrian-led and implemented transitional justice process. And this is because transitional justice is the means through which Syria can confront its past and start the process of rebuilding a sustainable peace. It's also important to note that building strong political structures, restoring the rule of law, and securing a foundation for reconciliation initiatives, we need to empower and restore the dignity of victims. Our first step towards establishing peace is emphasizing that women detainees are not numbers but humans who have to be released immediately and with no conditions. Also, to create a sustainable peace, we need not to forget that the cost of impunity and lack of accountability for what happened in the 1970s and 1980s should not be repeated. So, in my opinion, that some of the demands that should be made by us, or we ask the UN, is that first, immediate release of Syrian women and children with no conditions, so there is no need, there should be no politicization of the women detainees inside. The UN must ensure the realization of effective measures to protect women and children in the Syrian conflict, establishing a culture of accountability that would ensure the prevention from acts of revenge and retaliation. And accountability should include those directly responsible for crimes, those who ordered or encouraged the crime, and the widespread abuse of human rights, and also the institutions that facilitated those practices. Lastly, I need to confirm that in order for the Syrian society to overcome a legacy of large-scale past and current abuses, the UN, Syrian independent institutions and NGOs, and other effective regional actors, there is a need to ensure the implementation of effective measures to establish accountability, serve justice, and achieve reconciliation. This cannot be achieved without stopping the Assad regime and its allies from violating human rights through kidnapping, raping, and abusing women. My final message for today is to be in the words that is given from a woman's survival, now an activist for peace and accountability. Her name is Amina Kholani. She is one of those organizers for Families for Freedom, and she has 2 messages for you. The first, in her own words, I'm reading, in fact, it's hard and very difficult to get a sense of what a freedom or a human dignity means when my friends are still imprisoned and have unknown destiny. Her second message is that there cannot be a realization of peace or establishing of peace without holding those who killed my 3 brothers accountable. Finally, as a Syrian academic, I am aware of the many talks regarding reconstructing Syria. And while these talks include funding projects to build the destroyed cities, the regime is reconstructing Syria through rebuilding the statues of Bashar al-Assad's father. Of course, the regime is trying to promote national unity through reconstructing these statues in an attempt to emphasize that survival of the nation is synonymous with the survival of Assad family. Such policy is intended to break victims' dignity and humanity. It prevents any future establishment of peace or accountability and weaken the sense of confidence in the international system. More importantly, it's a symbolic act to violate millions of Syrians' aspiration for freedom, democracy, and most importantly, their desire to return to Syria. Therefore, lastly, and I just conclude with these words, reconstructing Syria, whether by international actors or by rehabilitating this regime, should only start after thousands of women and children and also men are released unconditionally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rahaf. Before to listen the witness, one of the witness of the Syrian prisons, we like to show a very short video about our campaign and situation of the Syrian women and children in prison.
than 7,000 women and children are tortured and abused in the Syrian prisons. Each day we remain silent, another woman will be deprived of her freedom. It is in our hands to stop this shame. Listen to your conscience and start acting. We need you.
Yes, we need all of you. We need all of you to help these women and children in prison in Syria. I want to give the floor for one of the witnesses of this situation in Syria, Majid Çorbacı. She is with us. She is with us not only in this event, she is with us up to see the last prisoners have been freed from the Syria. Thank you very much. Floor is yours.
مساء الخير. أولاً أود أن أشكر المنظمين لهذه الفعالية وأود أن أشكر جميع الحضور. أنا مجد شربجي من مدينة دارية بالقرب من دمشق، معتقلة سابقة في سجون النظام السوري لمدة 7 أشهر. تهمة الاعتقال هو بسبب نشاطي السلمي والمطالبة بالمعتقلين منذ بداية الثورة السورية. اعتقلت في نهاية عام 2012 أنا وزوجي في نفس اليوم. تم اعتقالنا. عندي 3 أطفال تم اعتقالهم بعد اعتقالنا ب3 أيام أيضا. طبعا أنا لم أعلم باعتقالهم لأنني كنت مخفية في أحد الأفرع الأمنية في دمشق أنا وزوجي. وطبعا الاعتقال في سوريا عندما نقول اعتقال ليس اعتقالا بمذكرة اعتقال قانونية ونظامية، وإنما هو حالة خطف واختفاء قسري. يعني يتم إخفاءنا تحت الأرض لسنوات. هناك أشخاص الآن معتقلين تحت الأرض لا أحد يعلم أين هم. حتى داخل المعتقل وداخل السجن ممنوع علينا أن نذكر أسماءنا من أجل التعتيم على المعتقلين. فكنا ندخل إلى السجون في أرقام ويمنع على يعني نخاطب بعضنا في الأرقام وليس بالأسماء، من أجل إذا خرج أحدنا لا يستطيع أن يقول من رأى في السجن أو من كان معه في المعتقل. لهذه الدرجة النظام السوري يعتم يعني ويحاول أن يخفي، وهذا بحد ذاته هو تعذيب نفسي عندما تتواجد في مكان لا تعرف متى ستخرج ولا تعرف وليس هناك أي محاكمة ولا أحد يستطيع أن يراك، وأهلك الذين في الخارج لا يعرفون أيضا أين أنت. تم اعتقال أولادي بعد اعتقالي ب3 أيام دون أي سبب لمدة يوم كامل. تم تعذيب الكثير من المعتقلين والسجناء يعني أمامهم وإرعابهم بهذا الموضوع. طفلي الصغير كان عمره 2.5 عندما أخذوه، وابنتي عمرها 7 سنوات وابني 8 سنوات. يعني نتكلم عن أطفال لا يعرفون أي شيء تم اعتقالهم لمجرد لأن والدتهم ووالدهم قالوا لا للنظام السوري. سأتحدث قليلا عن ظروف المعتقل السوري. يعني أتوقع أكيد جميعكم سمعتم عن سجون يعني السورية، ولكن هي لا تشبه السجون حقيقة. يعني ليست سجن، يعني لا أعلم، هي يعني مكان مظلم تحت الأرض بطابقين، لا يرى النور ولا يرى الشمس، مكان صغير جدا. كنا موجودين في زنازين يعني جنب يعني، فكان كريدور ممر وكثير من الزنازين. نحن النساء كنا في زنزانة ضمن زنازين كثيرة للشباب. كنا في زنزانة بالضبط يعني 2 في 2 مساحتها. كنا فيها 20 امرأة، 20 معتقلة في 2 ب2. يعني بشكل فعلي نحن لمدة 7 أشهر لا نستطيع أن ننام كما ينام البشر، وهو أن يمد الإنسان رجليه ويضع رأسه على هذا الشيء غير موجود. وإنما كنا نعتمد موضوع المناوبات نصفنا يقف ونصفنا يجلس حتى نستطيع أن تسعنا الزنزانة. ممنوع، ليس هناك طبعا يعني حمام في الزنزانة، وإنما يسمحون لنا يفتحون باب الزنزانة 3 مرات خلال 24 ساعة للدخول إلى الحمام. ممنوع الاستحمام. أنا بقيت 3 أشهر لم أستطع أن أستحم على نفس ملابسي. جميع المعتقلين في السجون السورية يصابون بالجرب من كثرة يعني الأمراض وقلة النظافة، وكثير منهم يموتون بسبب الجرب. أنا أصبت بالجرب، وطبعا ليس هناك أي أدوية ولا أطباء يداوون يعني هذه الحالة. أصبت بالجرب، وعندما خرجت من المعتقل يعني حتى هذه اللحظة عندما أتواجد في مكان ضيق أو معتم يعني تصيبني نوع من الحكة يعني كحالة نفسية على الوضع اللي كنت أعيشه في المعتقل. معنا في السجون نساء حوامل، نساء معهم أطفال. في هذه الزنزانة الضيقة التي لا ترى النور يوجد نساء معهم أطفال في هذه الزنزانة. الوضع كارثي. يتم تعذيب النساء والشباب يعني طوال الوقت، وأصوات الناس التي تعذب طوال الوقت نسمعه ونشعر بحالة يعني العجز وحالة اليأس من هذا الأمر. قاموا بتعذيب زوجي أمامي أكثر من مرة، وقاموا بخلع حجابي أكثر من مرة من أجل الضغط علينا لنتكلم ونخبرهم ماذا نقوم وماذا نفعل. أخبروني أكثر من مرة بأنهم اعتقلوا أولادي، ولكن كنت دائما أحاول أن أنكر هذا الشيء في عقلي لأنني لا أريد أن أصدق هذا الأمر. يعني مهما تحدثت لا أستطيع أن أوصف يعني السجون، وضع السجون السورية ب10 دقائق حقيقة، ولكن مهما تحدثت الوضع كارثي. كانوا كل يوم يفتحون صباحا الزنزانات ويقولون أخرجوا، يعني بما معناها أخرجوا الجثث، لأنه يوميا كان يوجد جثث يعني ناس تموت خنقا في داخل، فيخرجوهم من الزنزانات ويضعوهم على الممرات، ثم يجمعوهم في البرادات ويدفنوهم في مدافن جماعية لا أحد يعرف أين هي حتى الآن. الأسوأ من الاعتقال أيضا، طبعا الاعتقال سيء جدا، ولكن عندما أتكلم عن النساء والأطفال داخل المعتقلات، يعني النساء كان عندها دائما حالة الرعب، طبعا غير الرعب من النظام والتعذيب. طبعا تعرضت لكل أشكال التعذيب داخل المعتقل، ولكن أيضا في مشكلة المجتمع في الخارج عندما يخرجون من المعتقل، ونظرة المجتمع لهؤلاء النسوة وأهمية العناية بهم من أجل والأطفال من أجل إعادة دمجهم في المجتمع. لأن بصراحة يعني جميع من يخرجون من السجون يخرجون بحالة نفسية يعني مزرية من كثرة التعذيب وكثرة الآلام وكثرة الظلم والقهر التي يمارس عليهم في المعتقلات. أستطيع أن أقول بأن النظام السوري يعني في سوريا في دمشق لوحدها أكثر من 15 فرع أمني، والنظام السوري يضع المعتقلين في جميع يعني ليس فقط في الأفرع الأمنية، وإنما جميع الأماكن في دمشق يوجد فيها معتقلين. عندما كنت في المعتقل كنت أسمع أصوات السيارات فوق رأسنا، يعني لأنه كنا نحن تحت الشارع، لدرجة أنني عندما خرجت من المعتقل بقيت أكثر من شهر يعني لا أستطيع أن أمشي في الشارع، لأنني أشعر أن هناك أرواح تحت مني، يعني تحت قدمي عندما أمشي. كان شعور يعني سيء جدا، بأنني أشعر أينما يعني دست في أي مكان على أي طريق فهناك أشخاص تحت هذا المكان يتعذبون ويتأوهون ويعانون. كما قالت صديقتي رهف، النظام يستخدم النساء كورقة ضغط من أجل يعني المفاوضة بهم. وما يؤسفنا أكثر بأن كل الإجرام الذي يمارسه النظام ورغم ذلك ما زال المجتمع الدولي يعطيه الشرعية ويخاطبه كرئيس دولة. يعني ربما اختصرت يعني يوجد الكثير من المعاناة. النساء حتى هذه اللحظة في يعني يوميا في اعتقالات، حتى هذه اللحظة نتكلم عن 8 سنوات، حتى هذه اللحظة يوجد اعتقالات يوميا في دمشق للنساء، للأطفال، للشباب. وأنا يعني ربما هذه المرة الثالثة التي آتي بها إلى هنا إلى جنيف وأتحدث عن موضوع الاعتقال وعن أهمية مناصرة يعني هؤلاء المظلومين في السجون التي لا حول لهم ولا قوة. ويعني وسنبقى نرفع صوتنا. يعني دائما أقولها أن الأسد ربما استطاع أن يسجن أجسادنا واستطاع أن يأخذ أرواحنا، ولكن أصواتنا حرة طليقة يعني. وسنبقى نخاطب الضمير الإنساني والضمير يعني من أجل أن يتحركوا من أجل هؤلاء المعتقلين. هذه المرة الثالثة التي آتي بها إلى هنا، ويعني وأظن بأن هذه الجدران سمعها الكثير من الناس الذين تألموا مثلي وجاءوا وتكلموا وما زلنا سنتكلم. ولكن أتمنى حقيقة بالذات قضية المعتقلين هي قضية إنسانية بحتة. يعني حتى هذه اللحظة هي ما زالت يتعامل مع هذه القضية كأنها قضية سياسية، كأنها قضية سياسية وقضية وتفاوض ويفاوضون النظام عليها، ولا أحد يتعامل معها على أنها قضية إنسانية بحتة لا يجب أن توضع على طاولة التفاوض. يعني انتهى الوقت بالنسبة لي. آخر معلومة: تم قتل زوجي في المعتقل، والكثير من النساء التي يتم اعتقالهم مع أزواجهم يتم قتل أزواجهم أمامهم في السجون وفي المعتقلات. يعني مهما تحدثنا لا يسعني إلا أن يعني أتمنى أن أكون قد أوصلت صوتهم قدر المستطاع وآلامهم، لأن الألم كبير جدا حقيقة.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manj. Thank you very much. I'd like to give the floor for Izzet Shaheen. He will give information about the conscious movements, what we have done and what we want to do. The floor is yours, Izzet.
Okay. Good afternoon. Izzet Shaheen from IHH Humanitarian Relief Foundation, board member in charge of humanitarian diplomacy. I'll give some brief information about the ongoing campaign on the issue, the topic, freeing women and children from Syrian prisons. Being a woman in Syria is most difficult situation. Over 13,000 captive women, 22,900 murdered women, 300,000 wounded women, and millions asylum seekers in different countries. No need for reason. They just stop you in the street and take you inside underground prisons and investigate as long as they want. This campaign actually an international civil initiative established last year in 2018 by a group of people and NGOs around the world, aiming to release women and children in Syrian prisons immediately without any condition. What made us to start this campaign, these pictures actually were taken by ourselves in Damascus. We mediated for around 80 women freed from Syrian prisons. The testimonies of those women here and also other 1,500 ones, the stories and the situations inside the prisons made us act immediately as people who are the witness of the case. Yeah, these also from 80 who freed in 2013 from Damascus. Okay, in 2018, the conscience convoy started from Istanbul to Syrian border to raise the issue in international media. Over 10,000 women from tens of different countries came together. In the end, they had a event of silent cry declaration in the border. These are the photos from last year's event. And right after the conscience convoy, we started visiting several states, leaders, opinion leaders, and also parliaments around the world. And it was very fruitful. The promises came from Kuwait, Ukraine, Malaysia, Indonesia. Also, dealings started with the Astana member countries, Iran, Russia, and Turkey. With the efforts of Turkish president, now the topic in the agenda of Astana negotiations. This year, 20 April, we had an international press conference in Istanbul with the participants from 45 countries, supported by 110 countries and more than 2,000 NGOs around the world, calling again urgently action to secure release of women and children in Syrian prisons. The media coverage of this press conference and the other events were very high. Now, it is a request also, everybody who listened this message, to sign a petition still taking place. Over 200,000 people signed the last 2-3 weeks, but we aim to have at least 1 million signatures to raise this message. And 2 reports, one of them is here, captive women in Syrian prisons of Syria, just you can take in the end of the session, and the other is also, both are also online. And many coming events will take place in many countries. I put 2 of them here. A demonstration will take place on Women's Day, 8 March in Istanbul, another in UK, and European countries, Latin American countries, and African and other countries will do the similar activities in their countries. To follow the social media, you can see those, even if you put conscience movement, Syrian prisoners, you can find all social media accounts. You will be very appreciated if you follow and share with your networks. The hashtags Sign for Humanity and Freedom for Syrian Women now taking place, and you may follow the others as well. Lastly, I'd like to complete with the message from Secretary General saying sexual and danger-based violence in conflict is not only a terrible, life-changing crime, it is also used as a tactic of war to terrorize families, dehumanize communities, and destabilize societies. We must end this horror. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It is also a request. We call all the leaders of the world, please, the woman is not a weapon. The children is not a weapon. Please don't use the women and children as a war tactic, as a war weapon. Anytime it can be happen for all of us. Be aware. I want to give the floor to the last speaker, Amal Kasir, from the US, Syrian citizen and American citizen. He will share with us. The floor is yours, Amal.
My name is Amal and my name means hope in Arabic.
Yeah.
My fatherland is Syria, and I chose to wear a green dress today because once upon a time, my country was green. We will bring up the torture because this is what it has come to as a result of the silence of the world nations. And I come here today with a poem because I expect everybody in this room and everybody in this building to ornament their memories with torture. Because the memory of this world carries torture, but it also carries greenery. Syria's people weep inside of her. Her belly filled with prisons. Her Palmyra spine a staircase with Shabih fingerprints in the drought, leading to dungeons with torture tool chandeliers, pliers and knives, rubber cords and smiling rapists, with human teeth as trophies they wear around their necks. War relics like teenage carcasses and bullets next to bags of bread and body bags. Syria keeps record of the tortured, despite the shrapnel spinal taps, despite sarin gassing her memory, despite broken fingers, bloody teeth, and ripped out throats. She recites the name despite the vetoes of the weapon suppliers. She remembers the neglected, because atop the Palmyra Palace of Torture were ruins that were far more photogenic. When gangs of leftover warbirds destroyed those ancient pillars, the world was so devastated. How could we destroy something so beautiful, we asked? How could we destroy history? As if the souls of the civilians beneath the sand were not beautiful enough. As if they were not valuable enough to have been considered destroyed. As if their lives were not a part of history too. We tend to mourn the ruins when we ought to mourn the lives our silence has ruined. Stones do not matter when people are inside of the earth instead of the rock. My name is Amal, and my name means hope. I have lost 46 members of my family to bombs, to snipers, to starvation. Men have returned to their doorsteps having lost 50, 60 pounds on their body, cigarette burns on their flesh. Must I remind the world of the sights of torture, the blood that drips from skin and the bruises left on the flesh? Must I remind the world of the smell of torture, blood mixed with feces, mixed with urine, mixed with bodies stacked together with sweat? Must I remind the world that when you sleep on cold cobblestone floors, you get sick? We must stop using vocabulary words to define this absolute destruction taking place in the world. The poet's mind can serve as a torture chamber simply for the memory. But my flesh has never experienced this before. Her flesh has. She has experienced torture. My mind is the only thing that can accommodate this memory. And therefore, each and every one of us today, we will leave this room carrying the memory of torture. Because the dictator Bashar al-Assad thinks that it is acceptable to make these orders. There is no such thing as voicelessness. Everybody has a voice. That is why regimes torture. There is no such thing as voicelessness, only forgotten. And we will not forget. Here at the United Nations, we will not forget. We will remember the smells, the sounds, the sights, and the touches of torture. Instead of forcing women for the third time in a row to relive this story. We will end this one way or another. We will end this one way or another. My name is Amal, and I chose to wear a green dress today because torture is not the only thing in our memory. These are countries with human beings who used to eat fruits from farms, who used to go to school, who used to go to the marketplaces. We prefer the red from tomatoes instead of the red from blood, the black from the eyes of the people we stare at instead of the darkness of the dungeons. My country is a land of greenery, not a land of torture. But we will ensure that all of its darkness is remembered, and we will bring it to light. I demand from the United Nations that it ornament its memory with the torture of human beings, because the only reason we are here is for the people. And I have to do this because I picked up the pen to come here. يا بشار ويا كذاب تضرب أنت وهالخطاب الحرية صارت على الباب يلا ارحل. Peace be with all of you, and peace be with the people in the torture chambers. They might not know we are speaking of them, but we will remember them. We will remember them. Promise me out loud that you will remember them. Say I promise. Say I promise. Say I promise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amel. Yes, we are in United Nations, and we like to call Secretary General to be voice of these women and children, and to help us to release them. Also, we have a message for all leaders. We have a message especially for main stakeholders of the Syrian conflict. We have a call to Astana and Geneva peace process. We like to invite all the panels to take action to release these women and children as soon as possible, without any conditions. We like to remind all world leaders, women and the children is not a weapon. They cannot be part of any negotiations. And all of us, thousands of the peoples, more than 2,000 NGOs in this conscious movement, we believe that releasing of the women and children without any condition in Syria will be starting point of the peace in the Syria. Whoever take these actions, the history will write them in a very good manner. And we like to again invite all of you, all peoples, listen their conscience and do something for Syrian women. We like to thank all of you to come with us, and I like to thank our speakers. They came only for a few minutes to share, and from the long distance. Thank you very much. We hope this action, these meetings, will be very, very important part of the conscious movement. I like to close, but I think we have 2-3 more minutes. Maybe one questions we can take, and then we can finish it. Please.
First of all, I thank you, Emma, for her touching speech. I think it's affected everybody here in this room. Secondly, we've been following up Syrian peace talks in Geneva here last 3 years, and 9 rounds of the Syrian peace talks. No single step initiated under the United Nations Syrian Special Envoy. So the constitutional issue is still awaiting, but the prisoner issue is still there. Do you really genuinely believe that the Syrian crisis will be solved under the United Nations umbrella?
Thank you very much. What I know, my experience, 30 years in the conflicts, the war is coming very speedily and very easy. You can war in a very short time, but the peace taking time. I'm part of the peace in southern Philippines, Bangsamoro. It takes almost 40 years. I'm directly part of the negotiation 17 years. It takes time. All we believe and the trust that the peace will come to Syria. Today, tomorrow, whatever it is, but it will come, inshallah. We trust everybody, and we are inviting all stakeholders to be more conscious and to be more positive to bring the peace to Syria. Thank you very much.